Hello dear learner, I welcome you to the lecture 5 of week 10. As you know that it is in continuation of the 4 lectures we have already conducted in the week 10, and the topic of this lecture is also ecological citizenship. So, before I begin my lecture, I would like to discuss the concepts which will be covered in today's lecture. The first we will talk about the green virtues which are required for ecological citizenship. Then we will understand the difference between the substantive and the procedural rights with respect to environmental protection. Then we will understand why the citizenship is such an important tool for ensuring the sustainable development of our society. And the last, we will see the challenges in the path of ecological citizenship. So, since this is the concluding lecture on ecological citizenship, so we will also discuss the challenges in the path. Now, first of all, we will today discuss what are the green virtues, because we have already discussed some of the ecological virtues which are required for the establishment of the ecological citizenship or for the building of this concept. Today we will discuss some of the other virtues which has been termed as green virtues by Dale Jamson. He has actually underlined 3 important virtues. First is the virtue of humility, virtue of temperance, and third is the virtue of mindfulness. Now, today we are going to understand the meaning of these 3 virtues and we are going to relate it with the environmental protection or the notion of eco citizenship. So, let us start first with the notion of humility. What we mean by humility? Humility is a quality of being humble, to be free from pride and arrogance, to actually understand one's real position in the society, that we are not supreme, we are just like any other component or any other entity in this ecosystem, having similar position, having similar rights and responsibilities as any other entities in this world. So, it is also the recognition of our true self. When we recognize our true self, our true position in the society, we are always humble. When we are having the knowledge of our surroundings, when we are having the correct understanding, then also we are humble. We are never arrogant. So, now this moral ideal has been really used in connection with environment. We have been using this concept with respect to our relationship with other members in the society. We have been talking about the importance of humility in terms of our relationship with the elders, and in the context of our self development, we have also many a times understood the importance of the humility. But why this virtue is essential for protection of environment or for developing a proper symbiotic relationship with environment is very, very important, and unfortunately it has not been stressed upon so much by the various scholars, or it has not been done yet traditionally. But when we talk about the importance of humility in the context of environmental protection, the first meaning of this is that we have to understand that human beings are just one component of the ecosystem. They are not at the head of the pyramid, occupying the topmost position, having the right to exploit those who are at the bottom of the pyramid. It also does not accept the viewpoint that human beings have been born with certain rights to exploit the nature and the natural environment for his or her own advantages. It also rejects the notion that the development and progress of human civilization should come at the cost of other beings on this earth. It also does not permit exploitation and degradation of natural environment. So, we have to understand that the basic importance of humility or to be humble when we are talking about the environmental issues is to understand at the first instance that we are just like any other component of the ecosystem. We are not somebody who is having more right or who is having, you can say, more recognition or more say in terms of utilization of resources or has acquired the right to degrade the environment. So, therefore, understanding one's position in the ecosystem comes by humility. And most of the time, we have seen that exploitation of environment could take place or the excessive degradation and use of natural resources could take place only because this feeling of arrogance, feeling of supremacy, the intention to dominate and acquire more and more power. If these feelings or if these elements of human personality were not there, then nobody would have dominated or exploited other human beings or the nature. So, therefore, it is very, very important that the sense of humility is incorporated in the ecological citizens or eco citizens if you want to really develop this notion of citizenship. Further, a humble person or person with humility will understand, will realize the horrendous impact of environmental degradation on not only the lives of human beings but also on the lives of other species on this earth, whether on animals or insects or microbes for that matter. And after understanding it, the citizen will actually take certain actions to prevent or minimize the impact of those actions. So, therefore, the virtue of humility is considered to be very important, and this cannot come in one day. It has to be inculcated since the childhood. People have to be socialized, they have to be taught, educated in the process or in the importance of the virtues of humility or being humble. Then the next important quality is the quality of temperance. What we mean by temperance? Temperance is also very, very relevant virtue. It means moderation in action, thoughts and feelings. It also refers to the practice of controlling our thoughts, our practices, our feelings, having a control over our thoughts, having a control over our emotions. This value has been important for the point of view of environmental protection because since it talks about moderation, it talks about controlling of desires, it talks about controlling of wants, so naturally this will help in promoting a simple living. It will ensure that not only we live in a simple manner, but we also ensure that others also get the right to live in a simple manner. It will emphasize upon fulfillment of basic needs and not our greed. And it will also motivate us or inspire us to adopt sustainable ways of life or sustainable ways or the sustainable practices. So, therefore, moderation in thought, moderation in action, moderation in feelings, they are extremely important to develop ecological citizens. The third important point is mindfulness. Now, this is a very, very important virtue which is talked about when we are talking about our self-development. When we are talking about our how to increase our concentration level, then we actually discuss the importance of mindfulness. So, what does this mean? It is a practice of paying attention to the present moment without judgment and without reacting to thoughts, emotions, and other experiences. So, mindfulness means that you are aware of what you are doing in the present, and especially those people who get angry very soon, the psychologist or the doctors, they ask the people to practice mindfulness because as the level of mindfulness increases or awareness of your thoughts, of your feelings increases, you realize what is happening or what is coming in your mind. Having a control or having an awareness of the thoughts and emotions is itself a big achievement, and it will further help in controlling your behavior, your practices. So, mindful living, mindful choices, mindful desires are extremely important not only for our individual development but also for the development of society and for the conservation of environment. So, mindfulness, it not only helps the people to become aware of their feelings and thoughts but also manage them instead of being overwhelmed by them. This is very, very important when we are getting manipulated by various agencies of mass media in the present times. We are being bombarded with so many information, so much of advertisements that we don't know how to make right choices. We are getting overwhelmed with information. We are getting overwhelmed with the various types of advertisement which is asking for purchasing one good or other. In such situation, mindfulness is very, very important, because if we are mindful about our behavior, we will definitely be very careful about choosing our lifestyle, our practices, our thoughts, our behavior, everything. And that will help in ensuring that we are not taking any action which will be destructive of the environment. So, very, very important. So, therefore, the next point is actually related to what I have just said, that mindfulness helps people to avoid the destructive habits and responses. Because when you become aware that your mind is asking you to do certain destructive thing, or you are being made to, or some a destructive thought has come to your mind, you can immediately take measures to ensure that those thoughts, they actually go away. In the context of environment, we know that all destruction has taken place due to unmindful behavior and practices of the capitalist. If we would have been slightly mindful also about what we have done to the nature, the type of devastation that we are facing today, we did not have faced. But unfortunately, the unmindful behavior is the cause of all such consequences which we are facing today. Now, mindful behavior will make us aware and conscious of each of our decisions and activities and impact it will have on the environment. This is very, very important, because we become mindful not only about our each and every activity, but we will also become mindful about what impact it is putting on the environment. So, this quality or this virtue has been termed as green virtue, and it is very important for the ecological citizens. So, therefore, ecological citizenship promotes a powerful relations between environmental values and formal as well as informal relations of political community. So, whether we are talking about the formal values or the formal structure or the informal structure, we are actually trying to relate both the formal and informal political structure with the environmental values. So, that is one of the biggest, the expansion of the scope and the territory of ecological citizenship. Ecological democracy and also the connected notion of citizenship is helpful in terms of identifying various marginalized groups in the society who have been excluded because of racism or gender discrimination or ethnicity, inequality, arbitrary state borders, or even those who are not born yet. It helps in identifying, because the traditional notion of citizenship does not help us in understanding the problems from the perspective of exclusion, because it is abstract in nature, it is universal in nature, and the traditional notion of citizenship, it does not talk in terms of the various multiple identities which we are having in the society. how the people, in spite of the fact that they are equal citizens of a country, they may be victimized because of various types of discrimination, whether on the basis of caste or on the basis of religion or gender and any other factors. So, we have to understand that behind the veil of the universal notion of citizenship, there are multiple levels of discrimination, marginalized voices that needs to be recognized and their rights needs to be brought into the public sphere. So, ecological democracy and citizenship helps in identifying those voices and giving the right and the suitable recognition to them. Alex Latta, another noted scholar, argues that when talking of environmental rights, we must understand the rights in terms of two important dimensions. First is the procedural dimension and second is the substantive dimension, or in other words you can say the procedural rights and the substantive rights. So, let us now understand what is the difference between the substantive rights and the procedural rights with respect to environment. Now, the substantive rights, to understand in a very simple language, talks about the substance of the rights. That what goals, what objectives, for example, well-being of the humanity or achieve a particular standard of living or achieving a certain goal or objective may come under the substantive notion of rights. And what is the procedural rights? Procedural rights gives importance to procedures, that there should be certain equal procedures, equal opportunities, equal right to participate in the decision making, or there should be certain institutional mechanism which provides access to all the public irrespective of any discrimination. But when we are talking the substantive rights in the context of environment and environmental protection, then what they do? They uphold minimum standards of environmental quality, whereas the procedural rights address citizens' access to environmental decision making. So, as we have already seen the difference, when we are talking it in the context of environment, they are talking about raising the living standards, or they are talking in substantial terms, certain objectives, certain goals, and they are asking for rights with regards to those goals. Whereas the procedural rights, they are basically talking about the procedure, for example, the citizens' access to environmental decision making. Now, I would like to quote the 1972 Declaration of the United Nations Conference on the Human Environment, which has actually incorporated the substantive aspect of environmental rights when it has proclaimed a right to adequate conditions of life in an environment of a quality that permits a life of dignity and well-being. So, this is very important, because here the UN Conference on the Human Environment in the year 1972 is clearly mentioning the substantive aspect of right, that everybody is having the right to a certain environment which permits him a life of dignity and well-being. Now, if you see the procedural environmental right, then we have already discussed the Aarhus Convention, that is the 2001 Aarhus Convention, where we find that the procedures which are associated with the advancement of the rights or advancement of the well-being have been mentioned in detail. Now, this convention guarantees right to information, then public participation and access to justice with respect to environmental matters. All these points we have already discussed in some detail in our previous lecture, but here we are again studying these rights in terms of the procedural rights or the procedural aspects of the environmental rights. Similarly, in Canada, 1994 Ontario Environmental Bill of Rights provides framework for government accountability, public participation in policy development and improved access to the court. You can easily see that these are the procedures, methods or mechanism which are essential for the achievement of the environmental goals or environmental protection or environmental justice, or even you can say social justice. So there are two important components, and both these components are important for achieving the environmental rights which are essential for protecting the well-being of the citizens. Now Andrew Dobson and Angel Valencia says they have underlined in their work the importance of citizenship towards developing a sustainable society, because that also underlines the importance of why we should study eco-citizenship. What is the need of that type of citizenship, and why the notion of citizenship is such a powerful tool which can help in bringing about a certain level of sustainable development. And therefore, I would like to quote their words, why they have considered the citizenship as important, because it offers the possibility of checking self-interest against the common good in systematic ways. Very, very important point. It provides the possibility, offers the possibility of checking self-interest against the common good in a systematic way, because this is part of what the citizenship as a concept and practice is about. So they are trying to link the importance of citizenship with the goal and essence of the ecological citizenship, and trying to emphasize that how they can check the self-guided action or actions which are based on the vested interest, keeping in mind the common good or the collective interest of the community. Because the purpose of or the function of citizens is not simply to vote during the election or to act in a passive way by obeying the laws of the country, but also their functions and duties, they extend or they expand beyond the territories of the state to incorporate those activities or those actions where they are able to control the behavioral practice or those activities of other individuals or citizens and even the state and corporation which are not in alignment with the common good. So therefore, the importance of having a particular notion of citizenship is crucial to bringing about environmental protection or addressing the environmental problems when we are grappling with the biggest problem, which is raising questions about our own survival. Now, this notion of citizens' obligation creates individuals, society and corporation commitment to green habits. So, you can see that how these scholars, green scholars, they have made a linkage between the notion of the citizens' obligation with the virtues, and after the green habits are created, how it will automatically lead to sustainable lifestyle and ultimately lead to the protection of environment. So all these are the links in the chain which are connected with each other, and all of them are important in their own way for the protection of environment or for addressing the environmental problems. And at the last, I would like to address some of the challenges in the path of ecological citizenship. Now we have discussed what is the meaning of ecological citizenship, what are the important elements of ecological citizenship, why the ecological citizenship originated, what was the background behind its origin, what was the need of ecological citizenship. Then we also discussed how the ecological citizenship is different from the traditional notion of citizenship. We have also discussed in some detail the important elements or aspects and even dimensions of ecological citizenship. Then we have discussed the green virtues, and finally we have discussed the important differences between the environmental citizenship and the ecological citizenship, followed by the importance of the study of citizens or importance of the notion of citizenship in promoting sustainability. But we know that the path of ecological citizenship is not an easy task. The path is full of thorns, the path is full of challenges and also limitations. So, we will discuss some of the important challenges or limitations in the path of achievement of ecological citizenship. The first is, it is difficult to match the activism of the citizens against the might of the big capitalist production, who may be pursuing environmentally destructive policies. Because the citizens are very powerless, they do not have any power which can be matched in comparison to the power which is possessed by the state or the big corporation. How they can raise their voices against the big corporations, big powers, or those who are rich and influential? That's a major limitation, because a very substantial aspect of ecological citizenship is centered on activism by the citizens, and that activism is tremendously hampered or limited because of the inequality we find in terms of the distribution of power and resources in the society. And also how the state is acting in tandem with this big capitalist organization, acting as the facilitators for their expansion of activities, for the expansion of their production. So when the state and the capitalists, they come together, then the power of the citizens becomes much more lesser. And we have already seen in earlier instances that in the modern society, the state has become giant in structure, in terms of power, in terms of position, in comparison to the individual, which is becoming micro day by day, in terms of the power and position and ability to influence the policies of the state. And the second is, of course, the level of awareness. We find that the level of awareness, motivation and commitment towards environment issues is pathetically low, and not only amongst the citizens but also among the private bodies, the business houses and even the state. Because awareness is the first important step to become an ecologically aware citizens. We can be committed towards our goals, we can be activists, we can be advocates, and we can fight for the rights and social justice only when we are aware. If you go and ask the common citizens about what changes have been taking place in the environment, why the temperature has risen so suddenly across the world in comparison to earlier times, why the global warming is taking place, why we find so much of fluctuations in the climate. They have no understanding why the importance of trees is so, essential for maintaining a balance and stability in the ecosystem. So, it is not only the low level of awareness amongst the citizen, but also amongst the states. We find that the issues of environment and environmental problems are never on the priority in the election manifestos of the political leaders. Neither we find that there is a dialogue on these issues during the time of elections. So therefore, you can well understand that in the mainstream political discourse, environment is still occupying a very, very low position. Then another issue can be contradictory identities, where individuals may recycle their waste because they may be following a sustainable lifestyle. But unfortunately, he may be working in a company which is leaving a large carbon footprint. So how is going to reconcile between these two things? He may be demotivated by that. So there can be contradictory identities, or he can find contradiction in theory and practice. He can find contradiction between the different aspects of the society or the different spheres of life. So that can make a contradiction, and actually it can reduce our commitment towards environmental goals. So with this, I come to the end of this lecture, and followed by some of the activity questions which are based on the topics which we have covered, like what are the green virtues, what is the difference between the substantive and the procedural environmental rights, why citizenship is important to sustainability, and there is only one question which is aimed at steering your imagination so that you can think about them. So the question is, think of some measures by which children can be inculcated with green virtues. So with that, I come to the end of all the lectures of week 10. Hope you have enjoyed it. Thank you very much.